Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's good to have you here. Please remember to like, subscribe, and of course hit the bell for notifications. Today we're at the Carnival Gardens in Naguru. It's a beautiful space, so peaceful, so green. And before I introduce my guest on Crystal One-on-One, I have a giveaway for you courtesy of my good friends at Glam Icon Salon in Naguru. They would like to gift one of you with a day to go get your hair done, your nails done, maybe a pedicure, maybe a facial. It's up to you. So let me know why you would like this giveaway in the comments. That's all you have to do. But today I'm excited because I have a good friend, someone I've known for years, and someone who is a journalist, but also very, very fascinated with fashion and African print. I mean, she'll tell us all about it. I have Sophia Aniku Adengo here with me on the show. So welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Crystal, I'm so happy to be here.
It's so nice to have you.
Thank you
Finally,
for having me.
because you've been jet setting in other countries.
You could say that.
West Africa.
You could say that.
I mean, you were rarely ever home.
You know, the thing is, we always brand ourselves as these like Renaissance African women who can do all these things. And then it happens to us and we're like, oh, it's too much. How will I be able to juggle? And you somehow half complain. But, you know, it's great to be working. You know, it's been a very trying time globally for everybody. So to still be able to be active, you know, in new circumstances is really, I think, a bit of a gift.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think we have to remember to be grateful for all the things that are still working. Yes. So you were a radio presenter, then moved on to being a TV presenter, then went on to being like a news anchor almost. And then now you have, well, you got into fashion as well. Okay, I think, where do we begin? Let me ask you, you are back in Uganda now? Okay. During COVID, you were caught outside in another country and you couldn't come back. I know so many Ugandans were upset. Where were you at that time?
Well, I was working in the region and it just so happened that, you know, the evolution of what was happening around the world literally took us all by storm. And if you come from a journalist background or a news background, when you see all these major outlets covering stories like COVID, what we saw was this big coverage in Wuhan, and then we saw a little bit of the migration or what was happening in terms of infections around the world, and then we started to see what was happening in Europe. But by no means did we think that we would be so eclipsed by this situation and in such a short period of time. So, you know, I'm away the top of 2020, and just as the year is beginning and you have all these plans and, you know, your work ready because the year is beginning and you want to put your best foot forward, you've made your resolutions, and then we all came to a global standstill. And that was the first time I felt very one with other countries, you know, because you always feel like we're Africans, we do things differently, and whatever affects you all, you know, that's you guys, of the world. You know, but this was the first time we all had this collective challenge, and it hit us differently. Personally for me, being away from family was just so trying.
So
you know,
before that, would you be able to come in and out more often?
Yeah. So working as a journalist internationally, you're stationed in different countries around Africa, but it's always to cover a story. Let's say the fall of Mugabe. So what happened pre, mid, and post. Or you know, Nigeria's crashing with their economy, so you're there to cover that. Or there's an election going on somewhere, and you know, you want to hear from the people, you want to tell stories, or there's a major breakout of some kind of disease. But this was the first time we were all confronted with, what do you do when there's a pandemic and every country does not want anyone coming in or going out? You're just stuck. And stuck without a plan. It's the scariest thing ever.
So you had gone to cover some news where you were. And you got stuck there. Okay, which country was this?
And this was in Djibouti, right? On the border of Djibouti and Somalia.
All right. Did you have at least anyone there that you know?
Yes, definitely. We were very well taken care of. I mean, I have to say that I had nothing to complain about in terms of the care that I was given. It's just the general uncertainty. I don't know if you also felt that way. Like there was just an uncertainty. Like,
because at first you're like, okay, a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months go by.
No, and am I going to die this year? like death.
No, and that's the
Being
thing.
confronted with death.
I honestly had to pull back from a lot of the news coverage at some point because it was like, you know, just all death and gloom, and you're thinking any second now we're going to start dropping dead like flies.
Definitely very anxiety inducing. And not only for yourself, but to see also your family crashing and not knowing what to do with this information. It really, I think it, even though we as human beings, I think have been just who we are and what we know, has been a wake-up call, I think, for many people to kind of not only just reassess personally with what's going on, but I think to remind ourselves that we are so fragile as human beings. We're not technology. You know, even though technology has become us, we are not technology. We're not hardwired phones and laptops, and we're human. We get sick, you know. Networks can be switched off for various reasons.
And it's not just getting sick, it's getting sick in another way, because then you have to quarantine. Even I mean, there's all the stigma in different communities where like, that person had COVID.
And did you see the illustrations of what COVID looked like when the scientists started?
I know, it was like a thing.
I was like, this thing is going to take me out. Like there were, it was either me or the thing, the crowny thing. It was. I was like, and there's multiple of this, and now with the different strains, who wanted to play? You know, So.
And also, I mean, being away from home. Generally, you can be away from home when you're working or on holiday, but there's always that if I want to go home, I can. So I know, so for many Ugandans who were stuck outside the country, it was painful. Like, I want to go back home.
Freedom, freedom was just robbed of all of us. And even if you were home, you couldn't see your loved ones, especially if they were older. The idea of your freedom being taken away was what we all felt, all of us felt. And though we tried to tough it out, we're like, no, I'm fine, I'm at home. You know, taking your freedom away is, you know.
That is really
and
what
I think
it
we're still going through it. We're still going through.
It's not as bad, but again, I think, I keep saying in Uganda here, we're super relaxed because we haven't gone through what other countries are going through. Just next door in Kenya, what we're seeing is completely different. We're like, but how are we the same countries? I mean, like, we have a border. So I don't know.
It's unbelievable. And I think, to be honest, a lot of people have diverse views about, you know, our current leadership. But the one thing that you cannot take away, and I'm really just trying to be impartial here, but the one thing that you can't take away from our leadership is how we were able to contain the spread and the response to the information that was given. And even though there are so many theories and still so many conspiracy theories that surround vaccination, I'm really, really grateful that we as Ugandans kind of took up our arms and didn't let it beat us, which I think is a huge thing, and it is not necessarily a given in other African countries, you know. So
true. Okay, so before we became a journalist and we got all serious, you were on radio. And that was Sanyu FM. Did you start at Sanyu?
Yes, I started at Sanyu. What I'm going to tell you,
I feel like I came in when you were leaving.
I'm going to tell you a little story.
Okay.
So we're young, you know, you're in your early 20s and you're trying to find these passions. And so Sanyu FM had just started, and we really felt like we were the maverick pioneering media personalities. So, you know, the station was open, it was young, it felt like there was a vibe resonating in the city that had never really been there before. And we wanted to be a pulse of that, you know, and get paid, really. So,
pretty decent money.
Yeah, decent money. So I remember you coming in and you were fly as a, and I was just like, see this brown girl. Because she's brown, she thinks she's going to be cool. It takes more than being brown to be on this station, my friend. Because we were grappling with Nugu. I mean, young.
I just remember bouncing around.
No, I just remember young, intelligent, very warm. And, you know, we hate to say it. We're like, we'll see how long that lasts. Well, the joke's on us.
I know.
You're 20 years in.
20 years into radio. I know.
But and you were extremely, I have to say, for the record, you were always extremely polite with everybody. It's like everyone was stepping into your living room and you were always really nice at a very young age. Whereas our attitudes have just been checked recently. It's a recent thing. We weren't always this well behaved.
I guess the mother did a good job on me. She did a good job. Okay.
So we met then, and radio became a passion, and an unbridled passion. And I remember at one time my parents sitting me down and saying, you need to find a job, like get into a real job, formal education, because all the way down the line in my family, it's always been nothing but educators or academics, hardcore academics.
So this is from your mom and dad?
This is from my mom and dad, who have gave their lives to academia and stressed education more than anything. And then here comes this wild child and sort of black sheep and, you know, just straight up artist. And they didn't quite know what to do with me, but they were open. That's the thing. I had a very liberal dad who, you know, although he watched with an eagle eye, he just let you be.
He was like, okay, let me see what happens. What happens.
And he was a child of the 60s. You know, he went to school in Egypt, and then he did a stint in Europe. So he kind of understood, you know, the artsy side of me. And I'm sure he had his few hippie days, but he would never admit that, you know, they sowed their oats. You know, they did the right thing. They sowed their oats.
Yes, yes. So that time, again, I've said this many times on the show, the perception people had of radio personalities was so bad. So I guess for us going in, people like, oh no, we might lose this child. They'll become an alcoholic, they're partying all the time. And like you said, there was such a vibe that, you know, we had events and all these different things going on. So, I mean, how did you get into Sanyu?
So, I had just finished school. I had just finished A-levels. And, you know, there was that gap moment where, you know, you're looking for a job, or you're just kind of hanging out at home waiting for your results to come to go to.
S6
yes, S6 VAC is what it was called. And I got a call from someone who was already at Sanyu and who knew someone who I knew and said, you know, I think you have a really great voice. Why don't you come and do voiceover work for us? And I was like, well, what's that? And he's like, no, you come and I'll show you. And actually, I'll never forget him. Ronnie Babigumira is really responsible for a lot of what happened after that, because from voiceover work, then we jumped into part-time radio work. Then people would miss their shows because they're drinking or they're partying too hard, and then you fill in, and then you just get the ropes. But let me tell you, there was nothing pleasant about being a presenter then, because now everything is digitized. You know, you can go in and you just,
my God,
you
just
press
no clue.
Yeah, you press a button. This generation will never know what we went through.
Part of me is like, what did we talk about? Because now people just go on social media and da-da-da-da-da.
Which then makes us so fly, because we took literally nothing and made it something.
Yes, whatever you would see on the way to work, you're like, oh, I have to talk about this, and oh, I have to talk about that. And then do you remember running back and forth with the CDs? The rack of CDs.
The rack of CDs that you'd have to carry. And then when the song is done, you put in another song and you cue another song. And sometimes the songs would skip, or they would just cut right in the middle. And
and you're like, okay, damage control.
Those were the ground days, I tell you. But it was such a learning experience, and I wouldn't trade anything for those days. Would not trade anything for those days.
So you started in your S6 VAC.
Yes.
And before that, where were you in school?
So I went to Nairobi.
Okay.
So and my dad really stressed me continuing to go to school in Nairobi. So I made a pact with him.
Okay.
I said, I'll go to university in Uganda, and you know, and do this job on the side, just kind of as a part-time university student. That was the agreement. Okay. And so after a while, I got into radio and really loved it. And I was like, Dad, I don't need to go to school. And this is where the, you know.
Ooh, the stress.
This is where the stress comes in, because, and of course the immaturity, because now looking back, of course you have to go to school. It is a must that you go to school.
Yes.
So what ended up happening is I stopped radio and went to school in Nairobi.
Oh.
So I went to Daystar University just because he just stressed that I cannot have you, you know.
That's why you left.
Yes, running these passions without this, you know, our parents always look at this education thing as an insurance policy.
Yes, that's
should
really
your thing fail. We don't want to look back and say we didn't tell you.
Yes.
So that's where that gap came in.
And you probably could see that, you know, you're getting pretty excited, because I I pretty much almost took a dead year. I remember because towards the end there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
And I was making money, and I'm like, really?
You're 20, 21, and you're making money, and you have some level of notoriety. But you did bring up a really great point that I wanted to expand on. We have so many people, so many friends of ours who are exceptional radio personalities, but who got caught up.
Yes.
And, you know, there were people like Alan Cantankerous, people like Bruno. These are names of like OGs, you know what I mean? That these were people who created the industry that we see today. And incredibly entertaining, very funny, and really groundbreaking people, but because of substance abuse or alcoholism and life's pressures, gave up. You know, gave up too soon. So that could have easily been us. Yeah, could have been us. And I think our parents could see that.
They're like, oh, my child, my child.
You know, got to get it early. So I'm really thankful that we were able to dodge some of those, you know, pitfalls.
Okay. And what about your siblings? Because I know some of your sisters.
Yes. So my sisters we're all very diverse. I have a very serious group of siblings who are very engaged in politics and in the corporate community. And then I have other siblings who have creative sides as well. I have a sister who sings. She's a cabaret singer. And of course, during this COVID time, she's had a really difficult time finding gigs. So she's gone back to school to do a master's in music. And one of my other siblings is really so quiet. You can't even imagine that we're related, but we're the closest, surprisingly. She's very shy, you know, middle child syndrome, where, you know, you get lost in the fray. We're 6.
Okay.
Yeah, we're 6 girls, and I don't have a brother, so yeah.
So growing up, your dad had 7 ladies.
Yes.
Around him. Okay.
Yeah, but he was.
So he's a girl dad. What we know now is a girl dad.
Girl dad through and through. He just never, even when he had cousins visit and they were boys, he just didn't know what to do with them. He'd be like, so what do you do with this male creature? Play basketball, like tennis? I think he was more inclined to fragility than the masculine side. I don't think he really knew, and God knew, I guess, that he was more steered for girls. And my dad was a mentor, a friend. Unfortunately, we lost him a couple of years ago, but he, you know, everyone in our family really felt that they were close to him. You know, he had the ability to make everybody feel like they were the favorite. And I know a lot of people really embrace their parents, but my dad was really central to me and the rest of my family. Yeah.
So you said you were in school in Nairobi. Was that the whole way through?
So once I was done with Nairobi, I came back and really tried to get
primary
back.
School?
Primary school, we grew up in California in the United States. And so at some point, you know, Pan-African parents and academics are like, this isn't who we are. There's a whole other side of us. You know, and it's really quite interesting when you've developed an identity and you think you are this one thing. In my case, where you think you're American, you're like, you know, this is where I live, this is what I do. And so we had a really massive shift.
Okay.
You know,
the culture
at some point when you're reintroduced to another culture of who you are.
Okay.
And, you know, it's so funny that you should bring that up because it's only in the recent years that I've embraced who I am as an African person.
Really?
Yes, because you always hold these dual personalities as someone who's lived abroad in your formative years, right? And then you come back. And what's the initial thing that we do? We slam everything Ugandan. Ugandans can't this, Ugandans can't that, you know, we can't tie our shoelaces, the traffic, people are, you know, can't speak English. But I think over time, having traveled to all these African countries, Uganda is amazing.
Thank you.
We have it good. We're okay. Listen. And I'm embracing who I am far more, and sort of bringing that gap closer of being part American, being part Ugandan.
Yes.
It's leveling out, I think, now more than anything. And I think the Ugandan side is actually surpassing.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that must have been slightly difficult.
Yeah.
You know, coming from that, coming here and be told, oh, now this is home and all of that.
Yeah. Crystal, this feels very much like a therapy session. I didn't think I was going to divulge all these.
We're just chatting.
Oh my goodness, you're very good.
We're just chatting. So,
like,
so university,
yes,
what did you do at university?
So I studied mass communication. It was literally
You were
a
sure
foregone
that's what you wanted to
conclusion.
do.
Yes. I mean, you would never find me in the sciences. That was a tragic story.
Okay.
It's an ongoing tragedy. There are times where I'm like, can somebody do this math? Because, you know, and then just tell me what I need to do. But communication has always been, you know, really in my DNA, yes. And finding that formally is really what the journey has been about. Yeah.
And just following it, because sometimes your path is right there, and you might look this way, you might look that way, but eventually you just go with it.
It just gets you, and you're right, because I would often tell people, they would ask me, so how did you get into mass communication, filmmaking, journalism? And I'd be like, it kind of chose me, you know, it did, yeah.
Okay.